6 different reactors here. We have problems in each one. Just run through what you've been monitoring. Let's give us an overall sense of exactly what's going on as far as we can tell.
I'll tell you, Anderson, one picture is worth a million words here. Look at this. This is the closest image we've had yet, really, of the battlefield. Come in here, Audie, if you can, and show us this. This is the degree to which they've had destruction of the side of the building here. Look at this, the superstructure collapsing over here, pipes down here, disconnected and falling apart. Look at all of that and think about what we're talking about in terms of the damage that has occurred in this area. We think this is reactor number 3. But now let's just go through a few of them and see what's going on here. Number 1 over here. Here's what we know. Number 1 had an explosion early on, a hydrogen explosion, did damage over there. Number 2, we also had explosions over there. Possible containment damage. When we talk about containment, we're talking about that area that holds the active reactor that is so critical. Here's number 3. You were talking about it a minute ago, Anderson. They had explosions there, a possible structure tear. You saw that picture a moment ago. Look at that again. Of course they've had tears here. Look at the damage in this area. And then we move on to number 4, the one that has been such a worry all along here, the question being whether or not the spent fuel rods up in this area have been catching on fire and releasing radiation from that area. Anderson, I will say something about these helicopter drops that have been going on. As we've looked at this, we've talked about the fear of explosive radiation beyond this. If you look at what was happening, we talked earlier on, starting yesterday, Jim and I were talking about how radiation from this, if it's uncovered, could be fatal from anywhere from 50 to 100 yards. I was looking at those helicopters earlier, Anderson, and I was doing some estimates based on the fuselage size being about 60 feet, which is what those helicopters are. They can carry about 7 tons of water. Those helicopters were easily flying somewhere between 60 and 100 yards above their target. I mean, Anderson, you've been to forest fires. When you're that high in the air, hitting your target is very hard, and certainly to place it on top of something in a cooling way is unbelievably hard. You combine all of that damage, these dramatic pictures, Anderson, and this is the problem. This is the battlefield. And right now, the battlefield is so dangerous, they're having a hard time even getting close to it. So that's really the continuing problem here, Anderson. It's hard to engage the battle if you can't get close to your enemy.
And again, the 4 helicopter missions were attempted. Only one of those several tons of water, I believe it holds about 7.5 tons of water in each drop. They were only able to have one drop actually hit the mark. They would need dozens and dozens, maybe even I've read up to as many as 100 drops in order to fill the amount of water that's needed to cover those fuel rods. NHK is now reporting that 11 water cannons are en route to the area. They've decided to try to use water cannons as opposed to the helicopter drops. But again, that means putting more personnel in harm's way. The U.S. military had helped a Japanese crew to learn how to use 2 water cannons that the U.S. military had. They have donated those, but again, it is very difficult. They are trying to literally just pour water on top of these fuel rods in order to get them covered, to cool them down, but at great personal risk to themselves.